Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a review of the Yanyin Canon II, which will be joining my Wallhack certified tier list and very high on the list. For $379, you do get a box of ear tips and you do get a carrying case that I think is faux leather, the same case from the Yanyin Canon. It does feel nice and it does have quite a lot of room inside. You do get the 2-pin cable, which is actually a pretty good cable, and then the IEMs themselves, which are 4BA, 1DD, and the faceplate is absolutely beautiful. Comparing all three of now my top three options, the Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite is an 8BA set, the Zen's Top is an 8BA and 1DD, and the Yanyin Canon II is a 4BA and 1DD. Some of the main differences are the three units definitely differ in their sub-bass and mid-bass regions, the Zen's Top having, at least in terms of a graphing perspective, has more sub-bass and more mid-bass than the Yanyin Canon, and then the Yanyin Canon II has a little bit more than the Orchestra Lite, which can be, of course, tuned a little bit differently to your liking with the dip switches, either less or a little bit more. The default dip switch orientation is 1 up and 2 down. One of the orientations that I've been listening to the most for gaming-related purposes, and I think handles exceptionally well for games. In terms of taking the Yanyin Canon II in-game, I think one of the biggest differences I noticed between the other two sets is that the bass feels a little bit cleaner and it feels a little bit faster in attack. So the bass doesn't feel as bloated as the Zen's Top and the Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite, the Zen's Top being a little bit better in that region as well compared to the Orchestra Lite, which is one of the reasons why the Zen's Tops remain number one over the Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite. The Yanyin Canon II being a little bit less bloated in the bass is something I like and prefer over the Zen's Top. I do think, however, the Zen's Top has a just ever so slight more spaciousness, and even with a little bit of that extra rumble in the sub-bass and mid-bass regions, it remains exceptionally coherent with great verticality, great imaging all the way around horizontally and vertically, and great depth perception. If you have a little bit extra and you prefer a little bit more sub-bass and mid-bass with that level of coherency and layering where you can still hear all the notes and things happening around you, the Zen's Top is a really fun set for gaming-related purposes, and I think it performs exceptionally well in-game. The Orchestra Lite, if you already own it, would I upgrade to the Yanyin Canon II? That's totally up to you. I do think that the Yanyin Canon II is going to be a step up from the Orchestra Lite. If I already owned the Orchestra Lite, I probably would not upgrade. But again, that's totally up to you. I think the ergonomics are definitely a lot better. It's a much more comfortable IEM for long play sessions. And I do think that the Yanyin Canon II is going to excel over the Orchestra Lite in terms of verticality as well as horizontal imaging, primarily in depth perception as well as separation and layering. I think are a improvement on the Yanyin Canon II over the Orchestra Lite. So the Orchestra Lite's going to move to 3, the Zen's Top and the Yanyin Canon II. These are so close in the 1 and 2 slot. I've been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's honestly such a close race to call that I would just recommend that you all stick to the Yanyin Canon II instead of spending the extra money for the Zen's Top, unless the Zen's Top, that extra bass, that extra sub and mid bass is something that interests you, despite a little bit increased in the rumble of that bass. The resolution on the Zen's Top is better, in my opinion, than the Yanyin Canon II for music listening purposes and even just sound cues in-game. A little bit more resolving on the Zen's Top, but the Yanyin Canon II sounds exceptionally good for music, exceptionally good for all gaming audio that I've thrown at it so far. The soundstage feels just ever so slightly closer to you, so you get a little bit increased emphasis and just a tiny minor bit over the Zen's Top. Again, a little bit more spaciousness and air in the Zen's Top that I perceive in between audio cues in game. But the Yanyin Canon II excels in almost every region. It really is a toss-up if I want to throw it at number 1 or number 2. But again, if you're in a more comfortable position to be at that $379 price point, just go for the Yanyin Canon II over the Zen's top. This is an exceptional IEM for both a music listening perspective as well as a gaming perspective. It is never anything on the upper end that ever became shouty. If you're somebody who's very perceptible to gunshots and cracking armors or some of the more metallic-y things being kind of shouty or fatiguing, the Yanyin Canon II will not be fatiguing or shouty. At least it should not be, depending on what you're driving them with. I guess could be potentially a different story. But these are a very, I think the best way to describe the Yanyin Canon II from my experience is it is a gaming beast that is exceptionally well controlled in its sub-bass and mid-bass region, something that feels more controlled to me, again, than the other options on the table. Arguably could be number one over the Zen's top, but all three of these are going to be my top options right now. The Yanyin Canon II, again, is absolutely exceptional, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something that has a nice sub and mid bass, great mids, and a beautiful treble region, everything feeling very well contained with great layering and separation and a nice sound stage that isn't too close to you, isn't too far away, providing great emphasis for audio cues around you. Something, again, in terms of separation that is arguably the cleanest of the bunch as a result of those bassy regions being very well controlled. I love this IEM, and I think at its price point, it is easily a top recommendation for me and this channel. I think aesthetically, if you like the aesthetics and the graphs look appealing to you, an exceptional gaming IEM. I hope that helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Much love as always, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.